These are the words of prophets and general authorities for our day right now. It might be really good to dive into that. I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but I would think that that might be kind of useful to my life.
As a teacher, you can do that. You can literally talk at people who would otherwise be engaged, but if you're not asking questions, they don't really have a reason to be involved.
The focus should be on topics. It does not say the focus should be on general conference talks.
So literally going into general conference with the mindset, what would I teach? What are the topics I could potentially teach?
Welcome to the latest and greatest episode of Teaching Restored. Julie, this is going to be the greatest episode of them all.
Well, I heard you say that and I was like, wow, the anticipation is killing me. I'm so excited.
I don't know that's actually true, but it will be the greatest because it's the most relevant right now, today. Sometimes
and something to shoot for.
Yeah, I know. I have a goal. This is going to be the greatest. And now I'm going to let a whole bunch of people down.
But you did say relevant. So I called it the most relevantist.
Relevantist? I'm with you. Relevant.
Irrelevant? It's the relevantist.
Okay, now that we know that neither of us know English.
This is the greatest episode you've ever been to so far. We're making stuff up, making a word.
We've proved it already.
Good job, us. We're doing awesome.
We are. We're starting off so well. All right. So you and I have in the past talked about a concept of who is the greatest learner in the classroom. And we've talked about how often the preparer, the teacher, let's go to typical parlance here. The teacher is the one who learns the most. Why is that? Describe that.
Like just kind of what we've discussed in the past. Yeah. Just because as you dig in, you learn the most. And when you know you're going to teach something, you retain differently, you look differently, you seek differently, like you have teacher eyes, and it's almost like your brain expands and wants to explode.
Great. I love it. Yeah, it is. It's a totally different way of looking at it. You're diving in deeper than you normally would, et cetera, right? Yeah. So why don't we do that all the time? Why don't we study our scriptures that way? Why don't we study the gospel that way?
So I try. Don't you try? Like I try. Like I really do. But I'm telling you, there is something different when you know you're going to teach it. And so I've even done things to like trick myself into thinking, ooh, let's prepare this. Let's study this. Like I'm going to teach class on it. And I mean, I've even heard people say, prepare a lesson on the subject, like take the verse and prepare a lesson on the verse or whatever the case may be. And I mean, I think that's great counsel, but maybe we're lazy.
Maybe. Is it a true mental block or are we just lazy in that way?
I mean, I think it could be both. I'll actually be honest. I do think, and this is just maybe not even what you're going for, but I do think that there's something to be said about when you have a calling as a teacher, the Spirit really does help inform your mind in ways that are different. And I've seen that in my life for sure.
Okay. Have you ever... so I'm glad you said that. Taking that view, and if we think, a teacher gets special because they're called to it, so they get an extra special measure of the Spirit or something, right? And so if I'm studying my scriptures and I'm going to pretend like I'm the teacher and it's just not going to come to me like a teacher does, like a teacher would get it, that kind of stinks. And, I tried, right? But Julie, who are you teaching all the time?
Myself.
Well, yeah,
and
yourself,
my family,
your family, right? So why don't you prepare for them?
Okay, Kevin, guess what? I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to let you in on a secret. Okay, how much have I talked about how terrible I am about teaching in my home, how much I'm struggling? Okay, I had a little stroke of inspiration the other day. And it goes along with what you just said. It was this. It was, as I'm studying my scriptures, why don't I create little videos that my daughter can watch while she's getting ready in the morning, because that is something that she likes to do. She listens to conference talks or listens to videos. So why don't I prepare and say, okay, I'm going to prepare to teach Addie in the way that Addie would like to learn. That's my daughter, right? And that would be part of my framework for my own personal scripture study, and I can do it as I go along. So I was thinking about that a little bit the other day.
Yeah. Yes, you were. So really, you could take any topic, and as you learn it, you're actually waiting to help, or you're really creating it for her in that way, right? So that you can be the bigger learner in this.
Meaning, because you are the teacher who gets the most out of your study, you become the bigger. That's maybe bigger an odd way of putting it. You become the bigger learner.
You're big teacher now.
Weight because I'm learning. Let's not talk about this as an opportunity.
We're not talking about weight. We're not talking about.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying bigger learner does not work for my brain.
All right.
We are going to get the most out of it though.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah.
I think so. I think if we can take that, if we can, and I agree. A teacher who is called will be given extra because they have a responsibility that comes from passed down through the keys of the priesthood to do that, right? But then as parents, we have that as well. And maybe we're not a parent, and or we have all of our kids are gone, but we still have older kids that we're still trying to help learn as well, or whatever it may be. But I think that we can make a case for trying to learn the gospel from the perspective of a teacher so that we can dive in deeper, right? So I like you said, it's kind of tricking our brain that way. So General Conference is coming up, and I'll tell you what I do. This is me, okay? And it's pretty weak. Are you ready? Here I go. Admittedly pretty weak. I will watch conference, go, that's wonderful. Take notes, wonderful. And then I will play conference throughout the next 6 months, and I will listen to them. And, I go through the conference several times throughout that 6 months before the next one comes, and mainly listening to them and just go, oh yeah, that's good. Sometimes I'll take an ensign and read it, actually read what? And sometimes I'll watch, right? Or with elders quorum, because I'm in elders quorum, I will go through it and figure out, okay, what do we need to focus on here in our elders quorum classes, etc. But, and I gained some great inspiration from it. I gained some, there's some wonderful insights, but I could be doing more. I think about my study of the gospel this morning was mind-blowing. I have a daughter, Merritt, and we go back and forth on some of the things that we are both studying, and we're like, oh my goodness, did you know? And it's incredible, right? I had one of those this morning, and I'm thinking, why don't I do that same kind of in-depth study with the General Conference talks? So let me ask you, how do you study the General Conference talks?
Well, given that you just labeled what you do as weak, I'm like, oh, crud. Because I'm probably even weaker sometimes. Because I'll be honest, if I sit down, what happens?
I fall
asleep. So I have to go back and hear talks for the first time because I have slept through some of them. Without fail, I fall asleep for at least a segment of General Conference, or I have to be up. So I will sometimes push Matt in the stroller and listen to General Conference, and I'm wide awake.
That's great.
Okay.
That's great. Yes. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Nothing wrong with that. I will tell you one thing I do that I thought of while you were telling us a little bit about your story with Merritt. Addie and I will listen. I'll let her pick the talk, and then she'll listen to it. I'll listen to it. And throughout the day, like when she goes to school, like she'll get to seminary and she'll text me one thing that stood out to her from the talk. And then I'll text her back, what's one thing that stood out to me from the talk. And it's interesting because I've learned that, first of all, sometimes she's connecting different dots than I would connect. And sometimes she's having difficulty making sense of the talks. And so she's been able to say, I don't really know what this one was trying to communicate. And then it opens up the door for some discussion. And so that's one of the things that's been helpful to me, which is right along the lines of what you were saying. Like if I'm listening to these talks thinking, I wonder what Addie might pull out of it. And then it starts a conversation. So that's been fun. That's been really fun. And then I've participated periodically in Inklings, which is an opportunity to go in depth and study some of the conference talks as well, which is fun. But I definitely don't do enough. And I'm definitely not as consistent as I could be. Yep. But what you're saying right now, I have some really, really good thoughts and ideas about. Because remember, one of the things that we do, you and I have both done this for Kurt Francom. He has this series where he'll say, take a talk and give other teachers an idea as to how they might teach that talk. And so we've both done that. And my favorite talks are the ones that I have tackled in that kind of depth, trying to come up with a way to teach other teachers how they could potentially approach it and just kind of get their juices flowing a little bit. That's been a lot of fun for me.
Me too. And that's really one of the main points I want to make is that when we learn the general conference talks from that point of view and with that much interest, we gain so much out of them. And I think me listening to it a lot over the next 6 months is good, but I think be doing so much better to that level. I mean, these are the words of prophets and general authorities for our day right now. It might be really good to dive into that. I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but I would think that might be kind of useful to my life.
I think you probably are saying something that most people would agree with.
I think so.
Just saying.
Then why am I just kind of casually listening to it?
I know. Kevin, why do you do that?
Why?
Okay. So it's so funny because just before we started, I pulled up, I said, okay, give me some quotes from prophets and apostles about General Conference. And I have a whole bunch from ChatGPT about General Conference. And a lot of them, I mean, almost all of them are talking about the opportunities for personal revelation, like saying, this is the Lord talking to us. But you have to remember that what you get out of General Conference is personal revelation, because there are a lot of words that are going to be spoken, right? And the way that we hear it is going to be different for every single person. And so what an incredible opportunity for us, not only to receive personal revelation, but then to benefit and be blessed by the personal revelation and insights that other people receive about it as well, right? So I think about, for example, what a great opportunity for me to take each one and look for not only what I'm getting out of it, but what could we possibly talk about related to that? If I was to teach a lesson, what are the different topics that we could potentially cover? Like, I have this framework that's evolving in my brain. Is this where you're going?
Maybe.
For how you might do this? Are you going there or are you not? Do you
want me to, I don't know that I'm going to the same framework that you are, but maybe.
You probably aren't. But are we going to talk about some specific things you might do?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll save my comment.
Okay. All right. But don't forget it.
Okay, I'll write it down.
Okay. Make sure. All right. So I'm going to take what seems like a little bit of a left turn here, but we're bringing it all back around. Julie, what are we supposed to be learning in Elders Quorum and Relief Society?
Like in general, or when we study the conference talks?
Well, it's study the conference talks. That's what I'm going for, right?
Okay.
It is
what are we supposed to learn?
What are we supposed to focus on?
The conference talks.
No.
Applying the principles to our lives.
No.
I'm guessing.
Conference talks is the correct answer, but it's the wrong answer.
Okay, so let me tell you what I think. I'll tell you what I think. And
tell me.
This may be way off base from what you're going for.
Okay.
But in my mind, the reason that we study the conference talks together has to do with like learning from each other and creating more unity in our classes and quorums.
I'm with you. 100% with you. So if you go to the handbook, in fact, we're going to do this right now, shall we? Let's do this. We're going to go to the handbook.
Oh,
this
you have it up. Oh, that's
I have it up. Handbook 8.2.1.2.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
Kevin, you think my eyes can read that?
No, I'm going to read it. I know, but this is for people who are watching video. You should be able to see this. Julie and I, this is kind of small for us, but we're going to do this.
You're going to read it out loud. Okay, I'm looking it up. But can you tell me what it was again? It was General Handbook.
It's 8.2.1.2. 8212.
2.1.2. Okay, I'm there.
This is gospel learning in quorum meetings. Elders quorums, and this is Relief Society as well, meet on Sundays for the following purposes, and they go through the purposes. That's not what we're going to focus on. Meetings are held on the second and fourth Sundays. They last for 50 minutes. They're talking about the class, right? They talk about this time together. Meeting begins with prayer. Then we take a few minutes for counseling together. And then, let me read this to you. So this is where, Julie, I'm gonna call this one of my superpowers, and I don't know that that's quite correct, and maybe this is a really lame superpower, but one of the superpowers I have is recognizing and kind of tuning into the difference between culture. And I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. So it can't be that much of a superpower for I don't even know what to call it. But culture and what we've always done and what should be done. Right? So
culture and doctrine?
Yeah, we could say culture and doctrine. And really I developed this over my professional career of, hey, we're going to run the business this way. Well, why are you doing it that way? Because we have to, because policy says, really, what does policy really say? Then we go look at policy, and, just sniffing out, policy can't really say that. There's no way. And when we go look at it, we go, oh, actually, it doesn't say that. What it really says is that, and that actually gives us some more leniency or whatever it may be. And it's the same way here. Okay. So I'm going to read. Go ahead.
I have a way to phrase it. Maybe separating habit from what it should be.
Good.
Like not just culture, but habit even.
Great. Yes, that is true. Yes.
Okay.
Whether it's a personal habit or a collective habit, right?
Like a culture. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So this says sufficient time should then be given to, I'm scrolling, to gospel instruction and discussion. The focus should be on topics. I'm going to put a period there. The focus should be on topics. It does not say the focus should be on general conference talks. It said it should be on topics. Now I'm going to continue in one or more talks from the most recent general conference. Do you see how that's different?
Totally.
Right? It's not how to teach a general conference talk. That's not, honestly, who cares about that? We don't care about the talk. We care about the topics within the talk, right? What did President Oaks say about this? Not just, overall. No, we want to know. So if we're focusing on topics, then we can do one or more. We can say, President Oaks said this, then Elder Bednar said this, and Elder Stevenson said this, and Sister Runia said this, and we can put it all together, right? Well, that's a little different than how almost every Elders Quorum or Relief Society does it. Okay.
It's interesting because when I said, remember I was asking the question about, are we going to get into the kind of how?
Yeah.
The first note that I wrote down in my framework is going through the talk and saying, what are the potential topics?
Good.
Like numero uno. Because if you think about it, think about some of these talks. And I remember one year when we were doing this thing for Leading Saints for Kurt Frankham, one of the things that stood out to me as I was preparing is the idea that you have to come up with a one-word summary for the talk. Like, what is this talk really about? Yeah. And I realized as I was going through that exercise that it could be a number of different words. And so that's not even a topic. Like figuring out what is this talk really about is an exercise. Like it's not something that's super obvious, and it might differ from person to person.
Right.
Yes. Because there are so many topics in some of these, in so many directions you could go in. That's awesome.
There are.
I love that.
Yeah. So when I realized this, I've been thinking about, okay, if we're talking about topics, how are we going to pull those topics out? Seriously, do I need to dive into every single talk underline all the potential topics, then try to cross-reference each of these topics. And how am I gonna do that logistically? If I'm trying to put together Elders Quorum time and say we're going to talk about these topics, where's that found? It's in this talk, but maybe this one as well. I mean, the logistics of that kind of blow my mind a little bit. So I found something. I just realized I have pen marker all over my hand. I have no idea how I got that. Anyways,
you're like a little kid.
I am. I think my pen's leaking. I don't know.
All over your hand.
What a little child I am. So watch this. This is what I found. And I love this. And I didn't even know it was here. I found so many things in the Gospel Library app that I didn't know were there. So I'm going to open up a new tab and I'm going to go to General Conference. I knew that was there. That's great.
Oh, you did? Oh, good, Kevin. Good.
Yeah, that's good. And actually, at this point, I'm going to go to find.
Okay. And
I'm going to type in agency for the fun of it. Okay, agency. There we go. It's searching. Great. Agency. And then sort by most recent. That's actually not what I was going for. Collections.
No, collections. Go to General Conference.
Yep. General Conference. Yep. Right?
Yep.
And then if I sort by most recent, it gives me just this last General Conference.
So instead of sorting by relevance, which it sometimes defaults to,
right,
you sort by most recent, which is that little,
by most recent. And I've got all the talks in October of 2025 that talk about this one topic. Then I can go and do that. And there was another place where I can't find it. I'm not finding. Oh, right here. Okay. So this is what I did. I clicked on agency here and darn it, that wasn't it. Agency. Let me try this again. Oh, I went to, in the search there, I went to collections. That's what it was. And I went search current location, which is General Conference. So that's another way you could do that. And then I search for agency and then it can pull that up. So there are really kind of two different ways of doing that. But that way we can maybe highlight something in the in one of the talks that we go, oh my goodness, agency, that was beautiful. Who else is talking about it? And we can go in and quickly find who else talked about agency and see if we can connect those two. And that just made my brain happy because
you don't have to try and pay such close attention that you're memorizing everybody's talks and what topics could potentially be in them.
Right.
Well, and remember that functionality wise, right? At the top there, you've got a whole bunch of things. You want to make sure that if you're typing something in, that there's a thing that says exact phrase. And so if you have that clicked, and let's say you typed in agency and accountability, you're not necessarily going to get things on the topic of agency or the topic of accountability if you type an exact phrase. You're going to get a sentence or something like that. So you have to make sure that that's not checked, because I've run into that problem before. Yep. And then also, if you're having difficulty putting a title to the topic, you can click on topics and search for different options that might, be easily identifiable in a talk. If you click on topics, that drop-down menu is like a pretty comprehensive list of topics.
Okay, wait. Go back off of search. And then where am I going for that?
No, so you're in the search thing. You're in search, just like where you were. And you know how you've got General Conference, speakers, exact phrase, all those things. One of those drop-downs is topics. So and then you can find a topic that might be relevant. Like if you as an Elders Quorum president, for example, are feeling like you really need to discuss a specific topic and you don't necessarily know where to find it, you can search from the topic back to the talks instead of saying, ooh, I just found this topic in this talk. I feel like there've got to be more places it's referenced. Does that make sense? Like if you're feeling inspired to start with the topic, that's one way to do it too.
Yep. I like that. That's great. Okay, so there are some ways to narrow it down there. I like that. So I just went to topics, agency, and then search by most recent, and it came up with things that are in the Friend, in For the Strength of Youth. That is in the magazine, right? YA Weekly.
So that's general, not general conference.
Right.
Like that's the.
But then
okay.
then it gets down to the time frame of general conference, and it shows the general conference talks in there as well. So if you wanted to pull from more than just general conference, you could pull some more resources that they've talked about recently at the same time. So that's always good.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool. All right. So one of the things that I've been really focusing on is, of course, questions. I'm always thinking about questions, and I'm convinced more and more that when we study the gospel, preparing for a lesson, it's not so much that we are trying to understand the information to relay it to other people. More and more, I'm learning that it's because we kind of can see the directions it can go, and we can ask the right question to help the people get to where they need to get to. If we don't study it as much, for example, if our children are having an issue in a certain area, right? Whatever it may be, maybe a behavioral issue or doctrinal issue or whatever it is, we can study that. And then instead of lecturing them, we're just asking questions and helping. Instead of us discovering for them and telling them the way it is, they are discovering themselves, prompted by our questions. And so I think one of the big benefits of diving in by topic like this is to understand, and especially if we're going to have a discussion, whether it be in Elders Quorum Relief Society or Sunday school or with our friends or with our family, it's just the questions. Because, for example, you and Addie go back and forth over a conference talk. And I can almost guarantee that at some points you're saying, okay, well, what do you think about this? He said this or she said that. What do you think about that? Or Addie asks a question and you ask another question back, trying to help guide her. And I think, again, a lot of the preparation helps us ask really good questions to help people in their own discovery.
I think there's another principle at play here as well. So, what you're talking about is helping people in their own discovery. Pull it back just a little bit. The principle is the idea that no involvement, no commitment. So involvement equals commitment. And part of what you want to do, and this is why we use questions, right? We want to involve people in the learning process so that they're more committed to the conclusions that you draw together. And they're more committed to actually doing something about it. And so what you're describing, I think, is a way to help people become involved in their own seeking. Like sometimes I think, there's this thought that I have in my head, and it's a little bit difficult to describe, but I have a teaching, I have a class that I go to sometimes. And in that class, there is a lecture for the first 40 minutes and it's via video. And when the lecture concludes, we go and sit in smaller groups and discuss. And it's interesting because I think about how when this person does this lecture, often I'll have thoughts of, I don't know if I agree with that. Or, ooh, that's a really great insight. I wish we could talk about that more. And you can't do anything. And so I'm almost immediately like moving on mentally versus in a class, and you as a teacher, you can do that. You can literally talk at people who would otherwise be engaged. But if you're not asking questions, they don't really have a reason to be involved. And so their commitment level to what it is that you're discussing just goes down and down the longer you lecture. And so this idea of having prepared questions, even if you could give all of the perfect answers to whatever it is and just disseminate information in the most efficient way, no involvement, no commitment. You've got to involve people by asking questions and helping them participate in the discovery process.
Right. I'm with you. As you were saying that, I thought of how many times Jesus was asked a question, and instead of giving the answer, which a lot of times he didn't, he would ask other questions.
Right.
So many times.
Right. And we are so bad at this.
We are horrible.
We answer. People ask this question, we're like, I'll just tell you. Here we go.
Right. We're trained to answer, right? It's a natural, it's very natural to want to answer. But if our goal is to help them come closer to their Savior, not our Savior, same person, but have to build that relationship with the Savior, from them to the Savior, then us giving them our answers may not help them in their relationship. Yeah. So we have to ask questions to help them in their relationship.
Right.
And by studying and by getting to the place where we are studying to the point where we think we're going to teach it even, right? With that mentality, we can dive in and find what those questions are. We can prepare in that way. But if it's just regular study, how many times have we just studied and just went, oh, that's a really good point, and moved on?
Right. Totally.
And done.
So here's a thought. So sometimes, though, the process of what you're describing, like, asking questions to help them draw their own conclusions. Do you think that there is a bad way of doing that?
Yes.
Like, do you think that we sometimes botch it? And can you identify why? Like, how can that backfire on us?
Oh, so, I mean, I've had it backfire on me plenty of times.
But like, why has it backfired? So this is what I'm trying. Let me tell you the point that I'm trying to make, because I'm doing something that I'm actually trying to make the point to not do. Sometimes we will ask questions because we want a specific response and we want specific answers. And we, in essence, manipulate the conversation through our questions.
Which I have done a number of times already today, right?
Oh,
I've asked questions to lead you. Yes.
I just did it right this second to lead you. But here's the thing. When you're doing it and I know you're getting at something specific, how do I respond? You heard me. How do I respond?
Right. Yeah. What do you want me to say?
This is what you're looking for.
Right.
What do you want me? And that's exactly what people are going to do to us if we ask those types of questions. And they're going to feel like okay, sorry. I had a conversation with a friend I think it was just yesterday or the day before. It was yesterday on the way back from the temple. And we were talking about how frustrating it is to sit in our classes at church and expect certain answers. You can expect certain phrases to be used. You can anticipate that people are going to kind of, I call it like preach to the choir, like you're all singing the same song, and great. You can just validate by singing the same song.
Mm-hmm.
And part of what I feel a little bit discouraged by is the fact that leaves no space for, Lord, I believe, help thou mine unbelief. And so part of what I would love to push on just a little bit is, if this is a genuine effort to come closer to the Savior, we need to bring our real questions, like ours as a teacher, not just the questions that are going to lead to the point that we want to make. And so I think that's a whole new level of digging, right?
So are you saying that if we struggle with something, that we don't understand something, that we bring it before everyone and let them know that, hey, I don't get this. Can anyone help me figure this out?
Bam. And let me take it a step further. Maybe it isn't a question about the topic. Maybe it's a question about the meaning behind the topic for your life, right? Like, I have this quote sitting in front of me right now by Elder Uchtdorf. And he says, before conference, prepare questions you need answered. And so that means, guess what? If we're genuine seekers, we are going to have questions, be they questions about how things apply to our lives, questions about decisions that we're trying to make, questions about whatever. But like bringing those even to a class and saying, I'm really struggling with this decision. I'm trying to figure out how to approach this, what the right thing is to do. And I'm looking for answers in conference talks, and this is something that I discovered, or what did you discover? Or, what would you do if you were in my shoes? Or have you ever been able to? And so the idea is that having questions is actually intended to be part of the process. And so if we're focusing on our genuine questions versus questions to lead people to draw the conclusion that we think is right about the topic, it's a completely different type of conversation. And so that's, it says here, even answers to your specific prayers may come directly from a particular talk or even a specific phrase. And so if that can happen for you as you're thinking about your questions, and you bring real, genuine questions to the table, like other people's revelation will be added to your shared pool of meetings, so to speak, right?
I think one way we can tell how well we're doing with those questions is if when we ask a question, they answer and there isn't any place to go after that.
That's a great point.
Then maybe we need to get a little bit deeper. Maybe we need to start asking some more introspective questions, or at least get to that point where we can ask some introspective questions. If we're not having, if it's like a spoke, if I'm the teacher and I'm going question, answer, question, answer, question, answer, you talked about a discussion, right? A discussion isn't question, answer, question. It's question, answer, answer, different question, answer, different question from someone else. And right, it becomes this whole web.
Well, so you just said that that's a clue to you that maybe you're not getting really great questions going. If it's a ping, 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 or answer, nowhere to go.
Yep.
So I also thought of, if you answer a question and before you're even done, people are raising their hands, or right when you're done, people are raising their hands, then either they didn't fully listen to the question, which sometimes happens, let's be honest, or you asked a question that has an answer and people are just like, move on.
Yeah.
Keep
that's a good point.
You don't need questions that have immediate answers. And you're not wanting to ask questions that are pulling from a repository of answers either.
Right.
Like
it's almost as if you're reaching in for an answer and pulling it out, compared to hearing an answer and then that builds, and then the next one builds and it builds and it builds. If it's a one-off thing, we know we're not deep enough. But if if we're building on each other, then we're getting somewhere a lot. But I will say not always, because sometimes it can go off on a tangent and you're building off in some toxic way that we need to bring it back, right? Gospel, Jesus centered, experience centered. So of course.
So it's risky. What you're saying is it's risky, right? But let me kind of summarize what I've heard you say so far, because I think that this is a really important, what we want people to feel is that we're talking about the how a little bit, right? And so if we're talking about how to build really fantastic discussions that, according to the handbook, are topic focused, right? Then when you're teaching a general conference talk, a great way to start is to look for the topics. And then what we're suggesting is the next thing is pick a topic and what are your questions?
That's great.
Right? And start thinking about, and that's so simple. It doesn't even need to be more complicated than that. And then there may be some of your personal questions that are not appropriate for that setting. And there may be some that are super appropriate. Or you might even like text a few friends and say, hey, I listened to this talk. Did you hear it? What did you think about, if we're talking about this topic, what are some of the questions you had? And see if you can get other people to chime in as well, what some of their questions might have been about it, or what questions they even have lingering about a specific topic. I think that can be useful too, because I find that I'm a little bit siloed in my thinking sometimes, and my questions aren't necessarily everybody else's questions. And so
me too.
Sometimes think tanks are good.
Yeah. I like, that's absolutely it. But if we take it from a teacher point of view, and so what I see myself doing this next general conference differently, and I'll just mention this. And then, by the way, I want to hear this framework that you were thinking of as well. Is I'm going to go into conference thinking and praying about what topics should I be studying over the next 6 months? What things pop out to me as, oh, that's a really good point. Or, oh, I need to dive in and understand that doctrine a little bit more. Or that principle is, what other ways does that, and start writing down questions like that. And then that is a course of study, one of my courses of study for the next 6 months. And I'd start drawing from general conference, and then as I dive in, then I can have these discussions in elders quorum. I can have these discussions with my wife and with my kids and ask the right questions to help them discover, and on and on and on. And it's teaching, but it's not just blah, blah, blahing. It's not regurgitating, right? I'm diving deep enough. to be able to ask the questions. I think, okay, so I'm seeing a little hierarchy, although it's really not this way, but I'm going to say it this way anyways. There's a hierarchy of learning where you're learning enough to give the answers or spout information. And the next level up is to be able to ask the answers to get it from them. If we are just going to the level of, I can give you the information, there it is, maybe we can go deeper than that to the next level of, I know the information, so I know it so well that I can actually draw it out of you by asking the right questions, and you have the experience rather than me sharing my experience with you. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Like you have to get to that level.
Yes.
Is what you're saying. So
right.
Yes, that makes total sense. And I think the point of that is because you'll also be able to see more in the comments that other people make. Mm-hmm. If you have done, like, paid the price yourself, right. You'll be able to, like, the Spirit can work with you to pull certain things out and to really understand the points that other people are making if you understand it with a little bit more depth as well.
Agreed.
Right?
Yep.
I love that. Okay, so you said something about the framework that I was talking about, and it was what we're kind of building right now. Like I could see somebody starting, and it was, for me though, it was saying, well, what is the main point of this? Mm-hmm. And then next level would be, what are some of the other topics? Knowing that my main point is what stuck out to me. It's not necessarily a right answer or a wrong answer, but it's looking hard enough to be able to find simplicity on the far side of complexity and say, I think this is the main point of the talk. Right. Yeah. And then picking out the topics and then figuring out what questions you have related to those topics, and then going and trying to find other resources that you might reference or that help deepen your understanding of that topic. But the point isn't to use all of that material. The point is to go back and use the topic, right? To go back and use the questions. I mean, sorry, I said it wrong.
Use the questions.
To go back and actually use the questions. Mm-hmm. So I really do. That's kind of what I was thinking in my mind when I said a framework.
I like that. I got to read something to you that I found in here, and it's so, and I wasn't actually going to bring this up, but I'm going to now, just because I'm going to bring this up on screen. Okay. All right. This is the same section, 8.2.1.2. Let me make sure. Yeah. 8.8212. At the very end in this conference talk, it has a link. For more information, see to sit in council. So I'm going to go to this. And it brings up this article. Okay. Mm-hmm. Blown away. If you haven't read it, yes, go read it. Everyone has to go read this. If you are in a teaching calling, you have to go read this, especially Sunday school, youth, elders quorum, relief society. You have to. Let me get down to the very, very bottom. It talks about the role of the teacher. It says, then more than just a lesson. This is the last paragraph. He says, Sunday elders quorum and relief society meetings should include sufficient time for meaningful gospel instruction and discussion about recent general conference messages. But an elders quorum or relief society is not a class or a lesson. We have work to do, and we do more work than just talk about that work. Rather, we sit in council and promote righteous action that will help us all progress along the covenant path with songs of everlasting joy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well said.
I thought that was a good summation. You got to read the whole thing in there because it explains a lot more about that, but it is not a class and it's not a lesson that we're doing. We're actually acting right there. And there are different ways to do this, but it's not just, I mean, if we're just thinking about Relief Society, Elders Quorum, Sunday School, these things as, I'm going to teach a class. It is so far beyond that. And we have to get that vision of it's much more than just a class that we are, quote, teaching and relaying information. So
awesome. That's really great. I haven't seen that article before.
Yeah, neither had I. And that just popped, but it references from the church handbook, which is kind of cool. So in the end, this is what I'm going to do this time, and others may join or others may do something different. That's fine. But I'm going to go and I'm going to look for topics, specific topics, and try to link and just write down as many topics as I feel inspired And then that's going to be one of the courses of study for the next 6 months is to focus on that and then try to understand those so well that I can ask the right questions so others can have their experience.
So you mean when you take notes, for example, when you're listening initially, that's what you're listening for and taking notes around?
That's what I'll be focusing on. Yeah.
Great idea. So literally going into general conference with the mindset, what would I teach? What are the topics I could potentially teach? So going in with a teacher mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then looking for what sticks out based on that, meaning what topics stick out. And then instead of going, this talk, next one in sequence, listen to this talk, you'll go and actually study and trace the topics.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty awesome, actually.
If I'm a seminary teacher, then if I do that, then when a topic comes up, I'm like, oh, I just thought about that that came up in conference in 3 different talks. And I just studied about that. Yeah, I can bring the most recent things, which aren't going to be in the curriculum because the curriculum's already set, but I can bring those in, right? And that can be done for every quote class or anytime we talk with our kids. It's, oh, you brought up that topic. Well, guess what so-and-so said? Go read this from so-and-so and tell me what you think. How that relates to what you're talking about. Oh my goodness.
I love that. That's such an interesting, like from listening, that's how you're going to start. I think that'll frame the next 6 months.
Right.
Totally differently.
I'll be very busy for the next 6 months just by doing that alone, let alone everything, all the other topics and everything that I have going on.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, what?
That doesn't sound weak.
I know that's what excites me is that sounds like in depth. That sounds like, oh, well, we'll find out. When we come around to the next 6 months, when we come to October 26th, I'm going to report back and I'm going to say, okay, this is the fruit of this. And if it worked or not, I don't know. Maybe it totally fails, man. Julie.
It might. And I can't copycat you now. I have to come up with something on my own to figure out. But it is inspiring me to think a little bit harder about how to approach this with a teacher mind. I love it. I'm super excited. Okay,
good. So here's my challenge for everyone here today. It's to tell us, report back. That means go to teachingrestored.com. and report back and tell us, how are you going to watch General Conference so that you can be more prepared and be a better teacher of the restored gospel? We want to know. And that way, and we can get it out. If we get enough, we're going to collect these. We're going to get it out and get it out to everyone ASAP to give ideas of how others are doing this. Because here's our idea, but I'm sure there are many, many others.
Right, for sure. I would love to hear what other people have to say.
Great. Go to teachingrestored.com. Awesome. If you would, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks for listening, everyone. We will see you in the next one. Bye. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Teaching Restored. Now, we want you to know that there's more than just this podcast, more than just the discussions that Julie and I have with each other or with other guests that come in. There's a lot more. Let me give you a few things that where we just expand this reach. Number one, there's a community where you can go online and learn from a lot of others and even give ideas yourself. And that is found if you go to leadingsaints.org or teachingrestored.com and look at the community link there. That'll take you to a whole community. And we are a part of the Leading Saints community there, where we talk about, among other things, how to be better gospel teachers. So I would highly recommend you go there. We have some incredible discussions, some real passionate discussions of ideas and different things that we can do to be better gospel teachers. And also we have all of our socials. If you haven't been there, go connect up. We bring in other people's posts that you may not have seen that have great ideas, snippets from General Conference, and just ideas that don't take an hour podcast. They're a lot shorter that we just want to throw out of some good ideas. And then if you would, of course, please pay it forward. Share it with other gospel teachers. That way we can all become more converted, more gospel-centered, and just better teachers of the gospel of Jesus Christ overall. Thanks for joining us in this journey. The team here at Teaching Restored, we so appreciate it. And we love what we do. And this has been a wonderful journey for us. And we're excited about where this is still going. We have more plans to expand the content and expand things out for you. So stay tuned and we'll see you around. Thanks for joining us.